Hey guys, it's Bastian Green from Australian Sporting Agencies. Quick update on where we are with shipments and guns and latest and greatest. The Buckmaster 5, 7 and 10 shot tube magazines are here available, go for gold. The PB12M, the magazine fed shotgun, is in the country currently at customs being checked. I think I have them hopefully within the next 2 weeks. And then I probably need a week for testing before I release them. I will release the torture test videos obviously accordingly. I have now activated on celik.arms.au the Buckmaster customization. Have a look. Some guys I activated at 11 o'clock at night, and by the morning I had a bunch of orders in, so some guys really waited for it. I really appreciate your patience. I didn't want to set it live and take money where I haven't resolved the issue of supply. The supply issues have now been resolved creatively. With the customization options, you have different barrel options, 16, 20, 28. You have different magazine capacity options. Please be mindful to check. New South Wales and Victoria cannot have an exchangeable 10-round shotgun magazine anymore. It's a big no-no now. So be mindful to check your legislation around magazine capacity for different guns, especially shotguns. Centerfire, far as I know, nothing has changed, but in shotgun, there's a little bit of movement. In addition, also with the 16-inch barrel, some states say no to the 16-inch barrel, so you need to check for that. You also need to check that it's legal to have a 16-inch barrel, like in Queensland. The overall length, okay? So if you have a collapsible buttstock, your overall length shrinks down significantly, so that might not be legal in your respective state. I truly believe some guys just won't think of it, right? They buy a 28-inch Buckmaster, and then they buy a 16-inch barrel, and they just chuck it on, right? And don't think about that modification then made the gun illegal. So you need to be vigilant. You need to apply common sense, and obviously your local legislation plays. Then the next thing is the PB223, which is the Chimera. We sold out, obviously. I had so far pretty much only really good feedback. I'm very conscious because you got to see it out of my view. I test 2, 3, 4 guns. I sell hundreds. There is a lot of guns that we didn't test, obviously, because we don't torture test every gun. That's not going to work. So there's always a chance for it not to be as good as we think it is. And so I'm always nervous. But so far, everything I've seen on YouTube, everything I've seen on Facebook, etc., of the guys that actually own it and shoot it, is very good. For the guys that do want to put up some footage of the gun being shot in certain environments and circumstances, please be very mindful. I really like this gun, and so far the feedback is really, really good, and I want to enjoy these firearms as long as possible. And given the pressures at the moment and the uproar everywhere and the changes, just be mindful, okay? I do appreciate it if you put stuff up, but it needs to be in reason, okay? Don't be that guy that runs down the range, pump action style shooting targets, and you know who you are, all right? Better you don't touch any of my guns, because it's better for long-term business, all right? So if you're considering, don't. Thanks, appreciate it. Next thing is the PB223 in terms of shipments. The next shipment is scheduled for mid of April, probably custom cleared by end of April at this point. That will be a very substantial shipment, and that should see us through for hopefully quite some time. So people that do want one, that's sort of the time frame that we are talking. I do encourage you guys to go to australiansportingagencies.com, and you'll have a list of companies, and also on celicarms.au. You have a list of companies that are showcasing the product, so you can go over there if you want to touch and feel it, etc. There's, I think, about 40 dealers or so that do have them on the shelf. The PB308, which is the 308 Chimera, we're getting more and more orders coming in. Obviously, you guys worked out this is going to be an epic pig gun, and if you do want a 308 to shoot pigs, it's going to be a dream come true for a lot of people, including myself. I went to IWA in Germany 3 weeks ago, met with Celik Arms. I gave them a report of all the things I want changed on the 223 so that they can make the changes overseas before they come to us, so we don't have to make it here. As part of that, obviously, the discussion was that the 308 needs to have all these changes incorporated because we want to take the learning from the 223, apply it to the 308. So when the 308 comes out, it's exactly what we need it to be. The 308 prototype, therefore, is being made at the moment, and I'm just literally daily waiting on an update on, yeah, it's ready. Once that's ready, it'll take about 2 months for them to manufacture and send them over. So we're talking June, July at this very moment. That's sort of, at this point, a realistic target, unless something goes wrong. I've seen that happen a few times, so bear with me. As of right now, that's the best information to my knowledge. The Eureka, just in case you haven't seen it, there are 2 videos, and they may have been released before this video or not. So I give you a little short one on this. If you haven't seen it yet, the Eureka is at its very, 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 very tip of the spear end. We are missing the bolt and the bolt carrier. They are at hardening. These are the last 2 pieces, and once they come back from hardening, then we're good to go. And hardening might only be a week or 2. So we're very, very close. But I won't give a date until I have 50 guns out of the door, because then we know the run rate, and then I can say, hey, you are at number 200. It will take, based on our run rate, it will take X amount of weeks in order to get you a gun. So stay tuned. We're getting there. Rick is also going to release a rant video, which I just shot, and it is entertaining. So all I'm asking for you guys is sit back, buy some popcorn, enjoy the show. It's gonna get entertaining. Chimera, New South Wales. So this is what has happened, and this is how we resolved the issue. A while back, after we sent about 50 guns into New South Wales, I received a call from Badlands, from Zach, really good dude. And he called me and says, Bastian, your Chimera 223 is being banned in New South Wales, and it's a prohibited item. Needless to say, I almost fell off the chair, and I was like, why now? Like, come on. It can't be appearance laws. You know, everything else should be fine. So what is it now? I talked to Gary from Firearms. He passed me the contact details of the respective people in Weapons Licensing Registry in New South Wales, and I talked to the officer there. He's been fantastic, all right? He's been extremely helpful, and I really appreciate his help. So the situation was that because the PB223, which is the model name, comes in 5 different variations, of which 2 variations are collapsible stocks and foldable stocks, which are prohibited in New South Wales, which we obviously know, hence we don't send them to New South Wales. However, the New South Wales registry cannot differentiate between the variations. So if a model, which has 5 variants, has 2 prohibited items or variations, the whole model becomes prohibited. Yeah, come to find out. And the officer was like, if you would have called us months ago, that wouldn't have been a problem. I'm like, yeah, but we've been selling the PB12, which is the Buckmaster, for, I don't know, 8-9 months. And it wasn't a problem then, because they also have 5 variations. And he said the registry has no PB12 Gen 2 in the registry. So clearly we haven't sent any to New South Wales. When I told him that the Generation 2 is a marketing effort and that we've never actually renamed the model name, silence. Because the penny dropped and they went, oh shit, there might be hundreds of PB12s that are with variations and we haven't done anything. So we then also worked out, obviously relatively quickly, that the PB308, the PB12 Gen 2M, yeah, is also going to be affected by this. First, I had the thought, because obviously I was quite in disbelief, I thought, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to laser engrave FUR into the receiver. So it's going to be the PB12 FUR for New South Wales for FU registry. That was in the heat of the battle, obviously. A lot of people found it quite funny and entertaining. I talked to a couple other manufacturers and they said, Bastian, don't do it. It's not worth it. Don't do it. It'll come back. They'll come back at you at some point. It's not worth it. And to be fair, the officer has been extremely helpful So I went, all right, let's just go with NSW for New South Wales. What that would do would be that New South Wales would have its own PB223 Chimera version. The problem with that, however, then is that if you were to sell a Chimera with a fixed stock, which is New South Wales legal, into Queensland, and the Queenslander shooter would then want to sell it to somebody in New South Wales, or even take it over the border to go hunting, which a lot of guys do, and I live on the border, I've done that many times, you couldn't, because it's a prohibited item in New South Wales. Even though it's a fixed stock, right? It's just that entire model is prohibited, no matter what the configuration is. So that wasn't a solution. So eventually we came to the solution that we would only offer the PB223 model in a standard fixed with cheek razor and a pistol grip fixed stock configuration, which are all allowed in New South Wales and legal. And then we would create the PB223 TS for tactical stock, which would be the collapsible and the foldable stock. So that New South Wales then can say, okay, the PB223 is legal in New South Wales, happy days, and the TS model is not. That would sort out the vast majority of issues. Now, the irony of the whole thing is that the product that we changed is the product that actually doesn't go to New South Wales. So now everybody else has to get a TS model that wants a tactical stock, and none of these will ever make it into New South Wales. Absolutely bureaucratic nonsense. Yeah, because it's just a limitation of the system that New South Wales Registry is working with, which I understand, and we're obviously trying to work around because it is unlikely that we're going to see a change in the system. Overall, the system seems to be actually really good and handle PTAs within 2 days, which, to be fair, Queensland can just dream of, or other states as well. So it has a lot of benefits that are way more important than our little issue here. You just now need to be mindful of all PB223s that gone to New South Wales are now legal and is a Category B bolt action, and we have that in writing, so that's good. Now, if you live on the border, let's say in Queensland or Victoria, and you want to go into New South Wales hunting, you have to buy the PB223 model. Now, what you do to it after the fact, that's totally up to you. If you do buy a TS with a tactical stock, no matter which fixed stock you put on that gun, you can never take it into New South Wales because the PB223 TS would be a prohibited model in New South Wales, no matter what stock configuration it is. Obviously, all these changes are made to all of our guns, so you'll see probably, and some people may pick up on this or not, the PB12 TS, the PB12M TS, the PB223 TS, and the PB308 TS will be generated. So there's no change compared to what it is now. Not that anybody thinks it's a Gen 2 or something, unless it already is a Gen 2. But the stocks are just being put into that model just so New South Wales gets it the way they want it. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is weapons licensing in Queensland. Big drum roll. They in the shit right now, aren't they? So we want to add to that because we've been very quiet about a few topics that we deemed more of a competitive advantage sort of thing. But I think it's time to speak up and come out with our importation issues. Just to refresh people that haven't seen the video before, what has happened is that Weapons Licensing Queensland has not issued us permits for 7 and 10 shot Buckmaster magazine tubes or the Buckmasters themselves because, and I quote, "we don't like it." And the other quote was, "we have never actually tested one of those guns and categorized them. I've only been in the market for almost 3 years, but, you know, that's fine." In January, we met with the director and his team, and what was said and thereon after was that they need to categorize it, so they need one of the guns. We offered one of the guns. We called them multiple times. Nothing happened. No surprise. So they still haven't gotten a gun, so they're still not giving us a permit. That still does not mean they shouldn't give us a permit. The permit is absolutely a legal request or application thereof, and they still haven't processed the permit, so they still haven't said yes or no to it. And now it's been 9 months that we submitted those permits. And yeah, it's totally breaking the law. Like, it's totally breaking the law. We're going to get now the legal team involved, and we're going to pull them up on it and say that's just not good enough. One of the big reasons they told us as well was that they reviewing lever release as a whole. Allegedly, they weren't aware of the ban in Western Australia at the time of the meeting in January, but I certainly made them aware of it. What they said to me is that lever release should not be in any of the categories that we currently have, and they should have basically wedged in the middle so it doesn't fit into A, B, and C, and D. What I want to clarify is by they, Mark Rhymes, the director of weapons licensing, said if he had it his way, and these were his words, he would put it in its own action class, which I completely concur and agree, because it is so confusing for the market. Is it a little lever? Is it now a lever action? Or is it a bolt action? Or it has a push button? Is it a bolt action? Is it a lever? It's confusing. So I do completely agree that if we had a, let's call it self-ejecting action, then we could put all lever release, push button, whatever you want to call it in there, and we have its own action class, and that would help us as distributors, importers, dealers. It would help you guys putting in the right PTAs, asking for the right product. So I think that would be a very welcome change. I would disagree with putting it in its own category. And by category, I mean A, B, C, D, H categories, right? So the director, if he had it his way, and my big problem with that is Dan Purdy, as much as I like him, he's my local member. I don't know, but I assume that his knowledge of action classes and categories is probably very limited, because I just assume he's not a gun nut like we are, so I give him the benefit of the doubt. So then if a director of weapons licensing comes to you, the police minister, says, hey, we really need this change because we need clarification on this, and it really makes sense, and a bunch of people shouldn't have these guns, they should do further education in order to get it. Who are you as minister who's not enticed to say yes? I mean, obviously, these are your guys, directors, they really should know their stuff, and they do. And then it comes to you and asks you for this change, would you sign it? If you can't always take it to the public, and I understand that. You can't ask the public for every decision you make. So I would almost say I wouldn't even blame him for necessarily going, oh yeah, no, that sounds great. That sounds good. Let's make the change, and not realizing the implications, right? And the implications are that if you say, okay, it's not an A and B, and it should be a subgroup of people that either do a course, which he referred to, or whatever other genuine reason or requirement they can come up with, it means a subsection of the people that are currently allowed to buy it. He signaled that there is no budget for buybacks, and is implying that therefore it should be a grandfathering sort of exercise, right? Which again is a problem, because the moment you grandfather something, the value of that item diminishes potentially to nothing. So if I have a Buckmaster and they go, hey, only a subsection now of people compared to this many, now that many are allowed to buy it, the value of the product has gone down dramatically because there is a lot of guns and now a subsection of people can only buy it. Therefore, the value diminishes, and therefore I should be compensated because you just caused a value drop. I truly believe that the police can spend the money so much better on more cops on the street doing what they're doing. You know, we love them and we want them, and I love to see more and better trained cops out there so that we get rid of all the other problems that we have that actually impact public safety and not this bureaucratic BS. So, almost ran over. I believe that Mr. Rhymes is using the law to its full extent, which is fine until you use the subjective parts of the law in your favor, not just in your favor, but in your belief. I give you an example. What he's doing, and this is my read on things, I met with him twice, and this is how I read him. is he said to me, when somebody applies for a category A license, he gets category A and B. We automatically give him A and B. And he believes that's not what he asked for, and we shouldn't just give him a B unless he asked for it. So take that mindset and now apply it to, for example, the PTA issues we have with large caliber. I'll get to that in a second too. But that particular case that's sort of been published with the big game match, right? If you put it in that same thinking, I believe my read on the situation is that PTA applicant might have put in there, hey, I want to shoot my 300 Win Mag in this match. As a consequence, Mr. Rhymes goes, okay, I can't argue with that, but what I can do is only give you that and nothing else, because you, PTA guy, didn't ask for using for hunting, using for this, using for that. You only gave me this reason, and I'm going to only allow you to use it for that reason. That is, in my opinion, the whole problem with it is that the genuine reason has been hijacked to drive agenda, and they only give you what you ask for. Now, that would be okay, right? Because that's basically the law. He doesn't have to give you more than you ask for, right? He would also give it to you when you have a genuine reason. But he doesn't believe it's a genuine reason, which this is my problem with the whole situation is I talked to him and he said, oh, we're getting genuine reason requests for shooting a dog at 1,000 meters. That person should be in the military. That's not a genuine reason. I argue, who are you that doesn't know, judge that genuine reason? Let's say my terrain is wood, jungle, hilly terrain. You don't get to a dog at 30 meters, and that's the maximum you're going to be shooting in the forest, really, in a thick, jungle sort of style forest, northern Queensland. You have to shoot him on the other hillside. So you'll have to stretch it to 500, 600, 700,000 meters. Now, if you have the skill to do it, the competency to do it, I believe it's a genuine reason. He doesn't think so. So now he's not going to issue the PTA. So his belief on what is a genuine reason or not is clashing with everything we've done in the past. And it's not just clashing with us, it's clashing with a lot of people. In our case, we put an import permit forward and we said, hey, we're an importer, this is our business, as a genuine reason. I got laughed at in the meeting because that's not a genuine reason. I'm like, excuse me, I run a business. Importation is my genuine reason. No, I need from you what product, who is it for the resale? Is it for resale? This was about a magazine, 10-shot PMAG magazine. Which guns does it fit it to? Is it already in the market? And sort of almost what's the market demand? So I said, okay, so you just need more. Yes, I need more. I need more detail. That's his thing. He loves reading. That's his thing. So he's forcing all his staff to obviously apply this process. I'm going, all right, ChatGPT. So for people who don't know what ChatGPT is, it's an artificial intelligence program that basically has read the internet and knows pretty much everything there is to know. It has its limitations, but it can write some awesome letters, including legal letters in a language that I am not proficient in whatsoever. So what I do is I go, ChatGPT, and I copy paste the application in and say, I need a genuine reason. My genuine reason is, and then I write 2 or 3 sentences. And then I say, make it 10 pages. And then I have 10 pages of genuine reason. And then I barely read it, to be fair. And then I copy paste it into the application and send it. Now I really feel for the workers that now have to read 10 pages of my permit. I would almost argue they probably don't. They go, there's 10 pages, I couldn't be bothered. Or I'm wasting their time as much as they waste my time. And now they're reading 10 pages about why I should have it. Since then, we haven't been pulled up on anything other than the 7 and 10 shot magazines, which obviously I talked about. But we've gotten all our import permits in, and I think it's because we're now supplying the right amount of detail for the right genuine reason. I believe we shouldn't need to. Our business is importation, and it should be good enough to write one sentence and say, we are an importer, we are the legal representation of that brand or manufacturer in Australia, therefore that's our reason. That should all it needs to be. It shouldn't need to be 10 pages. Taking all of that, apply it to the PTAs. My advice to you guys putting PTAs in, use ChatGPT or write 10 pages and put every reason under the sun in there and then see what happens. And if they do still knock it back, then as one of our commercial shooters just released on YouTube, his advice, and I solely heartily agree, is challenge it in QCAT. It'll take a year until you get a QCAT point. I talked to one lawyer, he said, I have about 75 cases in with QCAT with weapons licensing just about around PTAs. So they're going to get busy. It's going to drain the funds of the police force, and hopefully the Minister of Police is going to look into it and the Commissioner and going, this is not where we should be spending our budget. So that's my advice on that. The other issue that we are having is importation permits. Australian sporting agencies has existed, I think, for 6-7 years. Australian sporting agencies had what's called a B709 DA. The DA, I think, stands for, don't quote me on it, I think it stands for dealer application or dealer authorization. And that is what we define as a blanket import permit. The blanket import permit is based on your categories that you're licensed for as a dealer, exception for C and D and R, obviously, because you need further approvals in order to get those over the line. But in our case, A, B, and H. What is the difference between a blanket import permit and a normal import permit? The normal import permit, which is called the B709A, there's different ones, but we predominantly use the A, is a import permit per shipment. So I fill it out, I type in, I want 10 Eurekas, 10 Chimeras, 10 Buckmasters, and I give the serial numbers, and then I submit it. I get that permit, and I get that, it takes about 4 weeks. I get that permit for those guns. It is valid for one shipment. So unless all these guns come in the same shipment, what will happen is, let's say 10 Eurekas arrive, they take the permit, they go, great, 10 Eurekas, the rest wasn't in there, they rip it up and it's gone. So I have to put in a permit per shipment. So even if I have the same gun, let's say I have 3 pallets of Chimeras and 2 pallets rock up, they rip it up, it's gone, I have to put in another permit. When I bought the business, the DA was taken away from us as a business because I personally, as the dealer, have not been in business long enough. That was a policy that Queensland Weapons Licensing just created out of thin air without any legislation, regulation, any change. They just came up and said, oh, you now need to be in business for 2 years. No basis other than you need to prove yourself. As far as I'm concerned, rumors say that every dealer gets a police check every month done on him, right? As we should. We should really not be crims because that would be bad for a lot of people. I get that. That's fine. We've gone through everything. Background checks, right? Everything. And still, we don't get trusted with a blanket import permit. What I want to point out to the blanket import permit is there is no difference in checks. The only difference is that under a normal importation permit, I submit that permit to Weapons Licensing. Weapons Licensing decides if they like it. Hand it to Border Force. Border Force does what they do in their system, and they create the permit, and then Weapons Licensing gives me the permit. They're basically doing the legwork, as in Weapons Licensing is doing the legwork, but they started to become the gatekeeper of what their version of reality is and what they like us to be importing or not. It's not Border. It's actually Weapons Licensing. So Weapons Licensing goes, hey, Bastian, I don't like the 7 and 10 for whatever reason. And so I'm not going to give it to Border for approval. It's freaking not, right? We talked about that. If I had a DA, which they, by the way, taken away from all companies but two, do I believe these two should have it? Fuck yeah. Yeah, they should. Because, one of them is ginormous. But it doesn't mean when I'm 100 times smaller than the big folks on the other side of the river, which I'm a big fan of, they should have it, but I should have it too. Just because my operation is smaller and I'm a small family business doesn't mean the law should apply differently to me. So they don't want to give me one. And I think the true reason, why, the first time they knocked it back because we weren't in business long enough, which again, I truly believe that's a policy they made up and that I can probably challenge that in court. But then when I asked them, I said, okay, now it's been over 2 years. What's the goal in the last meeting? They said, oh, just keep going what you're doing. I said, no, that's not good enough. You need to give me A, B, and C I need to achieve in order to get it. It's not good enough to just say that. I mean, that could be 10 years, that could be 2 months, that could be a year. How long? I'll just keep going. I'm one of the biggest firearms importer in Queensland. I would argue I'm probably on number 2. Not the tanks and stuff. I'm talking the commercial weapons stuff. Sorry, on number 3. And they've taken away the DAs from everybody, right? Only but these 2 companies. And I think why is because they are not the gatekeeper anymore with the blanket import permit. Because what happens with the blanket import permit is I buy whatever I need to buy. And 2 weeks before it arrives, I tell weapons licensing what I'm about to bring in. And there is no way for them to say no because they have no authority to say no, because it's border that has to say no. But border says yes because border applies the law, whereas weapons licensing does not. They apply opinion, right? And just because they don't like it doesn't mean it's against the law. So they are not giving us a DA. So we now taking legal action against that. We will also talk to the ministers, the small business minister, the defense minister, and the police minister, because we have now signed up new suppliers, and those suppliers provide 50 cal machine guns all the way up to 30 millimeter fully auto remote controlled cannons, which we believe have a place in the market, and we want to sell it to the defense force or the defense contractors. And therefore we going down the route of the military side of things, which makes us then be exactly the same as the guys across the river, just in a very tiny version thereof. And then there is no grounds to stand on to hold us back in doing our business anymore, just because they don't want to give up the power. One more thing that was mentioned in the meeting to me was that weapons licensing does not trust customs. They believe customs doesn't open up every box and check every serial number and just wave things through. And therefore, the only thing they can do is not give out blanket permits, because that way they check everything. How narrow-minded is this? Because they don't trust our federal government or agency, being border, they think they have to take it in their own hands and discriminate against us, small business. Like I can't even put it in words. It's so far beyond me. When I bought this business and took this job, and I absolutely love my job, I never would have thought that my biggest problem that I have to solve is going to court because the police does not follow the law. Like, where are we? Like, that's what it's come to. It's not my competition, right? It's not the end consumer. It's not marketing. It's none of that. It's me forcing the police to treat me equally under the law. That's my biggest problem, and that's my biggest challenge. And I never would have thought that I have to go to politicians to get them to make the police apply the law equally. And I certainly wouldn't have thought that I have to go to court, because I think we all have better things to do. I have guns to sell, and they have to police the law and apply the law equally to people and not put their own spin on things. So, rant over, that's that, all right? What I wanted to say, because not a lot of people know this. Rick Casagrande was the guy that brought in the first lever release shotgun, the Vernicaron Veloz. The government didn't like it, so Rick went to court. I believe he lost the court battle. He lost 80 grand in that exercise, but he won the importation battle. Because I think it was around categorization, but don't quote me on that part. He single-handedly is the reason we have lever release. He's trying to leave a legacy with the Eureka. I truly believe that he has already left us a ginormous legacy. A legacy that now the governments of different states try to take away from us, and hopefully they won't succeed in doing so. He's taking on New South Wales and the appearance laws. Can you imagine the legacy this man would leave us? He gets change to the appearance laws. How awesome that would be. I believe we owe him as much as he is a character, and you either hate him or love him. As much as you may hate him, you do have to acknowledge that he has left us the greatest legacy he could, or a single person could. And I think the Eureka is just the cherry on the top. It is one gun and it'll be an amazing gun. But I do really appreciate all that he has done and the risk he has taken for us to enjoy all of these guns. Buckmaster, Bushmaster, Templeton, Sullen, you name it. So yeah, and I do think that a lot of people should acknowledge that. And so I just wanted to let you guys know this is basically how this all came about. And yeah, Rick should have probably 200,000 fans that follow him just because, yeah. But he doesn't talk about it much. He doesn't like to take credit for it, but he's due that credit. So I hope that if you ever run into him on the street, tell him thank you. If you do own a lever release, because yeah, he did it, and he did it by himself with his own money, and we all now have the benefit, including us, being able to sell those awesome guns and make a living from it. So I'm going to leave you with that. You guys know the drill. If you have questions, if you have comments, put it down below. I'll provide. The next update is probably going to, unless something goes really pear-shaped or really well, I'll give you guys an update probably when we have the Buckmaster M and then doing the torture test. So I'm really looking forward to it. I will not shoot the sucker because I have a bad shoulder. So I might shoot it in a rest or something, but I'm probably going to find somebody who's ludicrous enough to put 1,000 rounds through it and see how the gun holds up. If there are any volunteers, if you do want to torture your shoulder, see if she holds up as much as the gun, just let me know in the comments. Last time somebody said, hey, what are you doing with the brass? Can I have it? And he was the first guy, and he actually sent his brother. I picked up, I think, almost 2,000 rounds of brass. I have no use for it. So ask the question. All we can say is no. And sometimes we actually say yes. I always try to make it happen if it's in my power. So yeah, if anybody's out there that wants to have a good go at it, let me know. Maybe I'll be able to make it happen. I'll have to look at how we do it from a legislation point of view. But I think there's ways of making it happen. So anyway, thanks, guys. Thanks very much for everything you guys do. And yeah, keep up the pressure on weapons licensing in Queensland. I think we're hopefully going to see movement there very soon. Thanks.